It says this with the attorney. Okay, so on this one, I'll put this in it here. As we're closing up the end of the fiscal year, do you think that's available? Is this last, can I still proceed with this? Or should I-
Yeah, I mean, the public's on notice that you're gonna initially ask for more money.
Right.
This, you can only schedule that, so.
Okay, all right, so on this one, I want to point out that this is at the request of McGilltown. I met with McGilltown Council, and the actual agenda item request for $18,000 to provide for increased water costs for parks, backflow preventer, and equipment to maintain McGill ball field. As we continue to close down the end of the fiscal year, those numbers change and amend, and I can only appropriate that amount, which is in excess of what was budgeted in beginning fund balance. That number has changed and become less. So the actual resolution is to augment the McGilltown fund from unanticipated and unbudgeted beginning fund balance by $14,733 to provide for increased water costs for parks, backflow preventer, and equipment to maintain the McGill ball field. So I will continue throughout the year because the McGill Ruth GID changed their rate structure, and so their water has skyrocketed, water the parks, and they need to go ahead and put in a backflow preventer in the McGill ball field, and they also need in 2016 when we did the SNPL nominations for the McGill ball field phase 2, the town council said I signed a letter saying they would go ahead and maintain the McGill ball field once it had been restored to its historic state. Thank you.
We all go through that.
Anyways, so there are some unforeseen circumstances with the water, and they need to get a certain elements of equipment in order to maintain that ball field. So we are augmenting by $14,733 to provide for those things. The biggest pressure is going to be those increased water costs, and I will continue working with the McGilltown Council throughout the year to make sure they stay in balance and in line with statutory requirements on their budget. But at this time, I would ask for approval to go ahead and utilize that $14,733 in beginning fund balance that is legally available.
Any more questions by anybody? It is sad that that rate has gone up that high. I talked to them more $6,000 in 1 month. So I feel for the citizens of McGill, and we need to do this. So let's see if we can get a motion to approve it. I'll ask again, a motion to approve to augment the budget.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 2020-55 with the amended amount of $14,733 that is available for appropriation.
Okay, motion by Shane,
I'll second that.
second by Lori. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none, that's unanimous. Okay, we get one more item. You have a little bit, I think that one more here somewhere. Yeah, on page 5, item F. Item F is for discussion only, information on the presidential election with respect to employment tax deadlines.
Thank you, and I know, I'm sure everybody's heard about the president's executive directive to go ahead and allow for the delay of the collection of Social Security tax for individuals that are employed. The affected taxpayer, who is the county, because we pay the taxes on behalf of the employees, has the right to opt in or opt out of this. And this started with pay periods that are paid after September 1st. I wanted to notify you that on behalf of the county, I did opt out of this, and the reasons are as follows. It is not a forgiveness of those Social Security taxes. So during the period of September 1st to December 31st, we would not be enforcing the collection of the employee's portion of the Social Security tax. Then when we hit January 1st, we have to start doubling up what we're collecting from those employees in order to pay that over. In addition, most of the employees that we have who are affected by this are our seasonal employees, because most of our full and regular part-time employees are in PERS and exempt from Social Security. So these seasonal employees then will quit prior to us being able to recollect, and it would still be the county's obligation to pay on behalf of those employees, even though we would not have the ability to collect those funds. So for this reason, I have opted out of the presidential directive for Whatcom County employees, and I did want to notify you of that decision. I did discuss this with the district attorney's office before proceeding.
Well done.
Yep, I
Yeah.
think it was absolutely appropriate. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Okay, that sounds like the comments from the board, and I appreciate it, Elizabeth, thank you, and that was a discussion item, so we are going to end with that. If there's anybody else that has nothing else to say, we'll go ahead and move on. And what we'll do is we'll go back to our timed items, and that will be on page 3. We had a you guys want to take a break for about 5 minutes before we do this one here? This won't take that long, will it, Elizabeth?
No.
Yeah. Okay, let's do, yeah, let's go ahead, and then we'll take a small break if we can, and then we'll get the update on the pump storage. How's that? That good? So let's go ahead with the 10 o'clock on page 3. Number 1 is a public hearing. Number 2, discussion on public input on the possible activities to be included in the application for funding under next fiscal year's July 1st, 2021 to June 30th, 2022 State Community Block Development Program. Elizabeth.
Thank you. And the purpose of this public hearing is to go ahead and gain ideas and input from the public on the Community Development Block Grant Program for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th of 2021. Eligible activities under the above, under the CDBG or Community Development Block Grant Program consist of public facility and public improvement projects, public service programs, planning studies, economic development, business assistance, and micro-enterprise activities. Eligible activities paid for with the state CDBG funds have to be one of the 3 national objectives that includes benefit to low-income households or persons, elimination of slums and blight, or meeting urgent community development need. And there's a very narrow definition of what's considered urgent community development need. At this point in time, we still have only the 3 proposed projects. The 2 for McGill, which are following up on the current planning studies. One is the McGill Sewer Pond Relining, which is a phase 2, and the McGill Slag Ditch Remediation, which is a phase 2. And then we did have one project that came forward from the public, and that was broadband infrastructure. None of these yet have estimated funding that has been determined. The first 2 will be dependent on the preliminary engineering studies that are being done right now. And then I have not received further information from the person who submitted this broadband infrastructure project. I'd like to ask the clerk's office at this time if they received any additional information, nor did we over in our office. So these are the 3 projects that we have. So we will have one more public hearing after this. The final hearing will be to discuss, approve, and rank the applications prior to submittal to the state. And it is a public hearing, so with that introduction, I would like to go ahead and invite if there's anybody who has public.
Yes, mine is the slag ditch in McGill. I myself have personally made it my own goal to figure out why the slag ditch is the way they are. You all know that we had a flood last year in McGill and the slag ditch filled up. And so everybody's houses below 4th Street flooded. Okay, I have contacted White Pine County, Bill Calderwood, who told me to call McGill Ruth Water, that they were in charge of the slag ditch. Then they told me to call the district attorney's office. I called and talked with someone at the district attorney's office that told me to call the assessor's office. So I have spent probably 2 weeks tracking this down to figure out who's gonna take care of that slag ditch. It is owned by White Pine County. Regardless of, I have been told there was a study that started 3 or 4 years ago. You know what, I've lived there 3 or 4 years and not one thing's been done with the slag ditch. Especially, you know, I've gone to a couple, McGill Town Hall meetings, and what I am seeing is, you know, if I miss this meeting, would the minutes I read 3 or 4 weeks down the road, would I be able to take enough from my minutes to know what happened in this meeting? Because I brought up the slag ditch at the McGill Town meeting, and the minutes came out yesterday, and guess what? I don't think I was in that meeting, because nothing reflected what happened. The town hall meeting, at the town council meeting, there was an upset with firefighters. It wasn't listed in there. Nothing, the minutes just showed, hurrah, hurrah, look what we've done for you, instead of, are we all gonna be on the same page? That's how I feel with the slag ditch. I have gone as far as to call Rio Tinto. I do have a contact at Rio Tinto. And this week, when I told him, you know what, I have called White Pine County, I have called the water company, and you know what, everybody just wants to pass the buck. I just want to know who is going to take care of the slag ditch, because I'm a little worried about our fire department in McGill. And I live on Main Street, on 4th Street, next to the slag ditch, where them great Kennecott sheds are, and it's nothing but a fire hazard. If there was a fire to break out in McGill, it would take a whole lot. It's not going to take just somebody's house. So my question is, who's going to take care of the slag ditch?
Thank you.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Bill has a comment.
Who is it, Bill Conway? I didn't see him back there. Go ahead, Bill.
We worked with the DA's office 2 years ago, and it was determined that the McGill slag ditch, the county owns from 1st Street east and from 4th Street west. So what we've done is we do work orders, and we clean and photograph through the DA's recommendation that portion of the slag ditch. We clean it annually. Now, between those streets, which is the majority, it was determined that belongs to Ruth McGill Water, GID. Now, when
Bill,
I'm sorry,
so that we can hear you,
Yeah, I got this wall here and I can't hear you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So the county, we worked with the DA's office, and we actually have a map. The county's portion of the McGill slag ditch is from 1st Street to the east and from 4th Street to the west, which is a very small portion of the slag ditch. The other portion belongs to Ruth McGill GID. So what we did on the recommendation of the DA's office is we actually clean that very small section below Main Street. We do that annually, and then we photograph it just because of the flood that occurred that she spoke of last year. That's our portion, that's our liability that we do. And other than that, now, when I first got this position, we had the honor camp clean the whole ditch. And I just kind of facilitated that effort, not knowing whose it was. So we went forward and do that. But since then, we've determined it's not ours, and we lost the honor camp to boot, which was a great solution for us. So, I mean, I understand she's 100% right, but it's not the county's, for the DA's office. I don't know what you want me to do. There's a problem there and it needs to be dealt with, but I don't know if you want to use county resources to clean somebody else's slag ditch. And perhaps a study that we need to do the SOQ for and get an engineering firm on, that'll all be determined in this study, but At this point in time, it's not ours. It is not the county. It's McGill, and maybe we should have a meeting with the McGill Council or with McGill Ruth and show them what the DA's office found in regards to who owns it. But I think they did that, didn't they? I thought
I
they
thought
had.
they had.
They had
Yeah,
meetings with
that's-
them, and they
yeah,
told them it
that's-
was theirs, and what's been done with it
They do not.
is, yeah. She's 100%, she's right on it, but it's,
There's been two courses of action. We've had short-term solution, which is what you took care of when we didn't know what we owned and what we didn't. And
Right.
you guys went through and you cleaned and you shored and you did the best you could with it.
Yeah,
And
it's
you
been
did a really good job.
2.5 years ago.
Yeah, 2.5 years ago. And, but on this side, on the CDBG side, this is something that we've enacted, this is the long-term solution, this is our long game. To actually get the studies in place, to see what needs to be done with it in its entirety, and see if we can't mitigate the issues that are being caused by it. But the funding that's gonna take to do that is astronomical, and without programs like CDBG, we are never going to have the funds in-house to do this. The other thing that, and a drum that I've been kind of beating is, and the DA's office agrees, is when you consider where most of that water comes from that runs down that ditch, it still comes off of Kennecott Rio Tinto's property, and we need to get them to the table as a stakeholder in this. Unfortunately, when we did take ownership of this ditch many, many years ago, was a huge mistake. But the water that is coming down that ditch does funnel down about 90% off of Kennecott Rio Tinto's property. So whether it takes a court action to get them to the table with us and have them understand that yes, even though the ditch has been passed off to us and the GID, they are still the ones that are sending the water to us that runs down that ditch and creating the problem. So there is a lot of steps to be taken, but the CDBG is definitely the right steps to be taking for the long game.
yeah, and the funds that are there are just for the study. They don't do anything beyond that study. You're not gonna see any shovels in the ditch. I mean, if the commission would like, I could definitely work with the DA's office. We can go back, what we kind of found out, the finding of facts, what we found out when we kind of researched it. We can go take that information and go back to Ruth McGill, and so it's clear that it's theirs.
Yeah, I think
I mean,
maybe we need
I don't
to.
really know what to do. I mean, I can't use road shop equipment to clean, it's not a street. That's against the law for me to do it that way. It's not even our property.
Yeah, we need to get to the table,
I understand.
everybody to the table and
When
make
it's
everybody understand
considered
what
your
their
property.
responsibility is and see if we can't work out a plan to get that done.
Yeah, I can do that. That is not a problem. I can get back with Ruth McGill and just go over it again with them and so they recognize that there are.
We'll just stick to I mean, it sounds like the county's in favor of
The
that.
CDBG.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
let's leave it at that. Yeah.
Off the topic,
Yeah.
yeah.
I will do
And,
that.
and there is, so to sum up all of this, there is the process within CDBG that we can go ahead and work with McGill Road as a complete project to do both the county property and the GID all under one project, and we'll go ahead and work an application, and I'll get with Amy Garcia so we can work with McGill Road to see how we can put that project together that will be beneficial for the entire slag ditch, because to remediate the top end and the bottom end doesn't do justice to the project, because it's not fixing the end problem. So, good reference.
Any other comments or discussion on this item? This was the public hearing, the second one. So, I think, okay, George.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure what kind of condition those sewer ponds are. They're relining, but that's a health issue, and you need to address that. The slide ditch, evidently you've got the McGill Ruth Water District that's falling down. They have an obligation to step forward. I remember when Mr. Coughlin came before this board, or a previous one, and took care of the county's responsibility. The health issue needs to be addressed first, not taking anything away from the slide ditch. But that's where you need to focus your attention. If we're gonna be hit with any of this so-called growth that you keep talking about, you're gonna need proper health care for housing and those that are there now. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, anybody on the commission, got anything to say? That was a public hearing number 2, and it was just asking for input, which I think we got. So we're gonna move on with that. Is there any objection to moving forward? I'm gonna move on, close that item, and we're past the 10:15 item. I think we probably, anybody okay with going ahead with the pump storage while he's on the phone? So we're gonna continue on. We have a 10:15 update on the pump storage project. Item 1 is discussion. It's an update on the proposed GridFlex/R Plus pump storage project in White Pine County. Luigi Resta, R Plus Energies, and Matt Shapiro of GridFlex. Are you both on the phone?
Yes, we are. This is Luigi Resto with R Plus Energies, and I see Matthew there. Matthew? I'm here.
Okay.
Matthew with Reflex.
We got a handout this morning for the commission, but I think an update by you guys, what we can read along with you, would be greatly appreciated. So go ahead.
Sure. Yes, good morning, commissioners. This is Matthew Shapiro, Gridflex Energy. Pleasure to give you an update. We thought we could submit that presentation document into the record and then just give you a brief verbal update and then just any discussion you'd like to have. We had a great visit last week. I think we had something like 14 meetings, including our the joint agency meeting, well attended. It's been about 13 months since we last appeared before the commission. Last year, if you recall, we described the project and you folks passed a resolution to provide fill water for the project, assuming we're successful in developing this project. And since that time, we've made a lot of progress in all the different dimensions. Licensing effort, which is, basically led by the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, the BLM as well, and then state and local as following as well. But this past year, we developed the next big document that's required in the licensing process called the PAD, the pre-application document, and that was discussed at last week's public meeting. And then following that, we are developing, starting the field studies, which will go into that federal license application. We are working on preparing the BLM plan of development. We've made progress on the interconnection, which is a critical piece. So we have to have a place to tie in this project, which has grown in concept from last year. I think we were looking at 750 megawatts. Now it's 1,000 megawatts. Just we get better economy of scale that way. And engineering, we completed what's called a pre-feasibility study, which builds on the original study. Continuing to look good there. We're initiating some geotech work, which is critical to the next step of engineering, kind of characterizing the rock underneath the site, which is really important. Marketing, of course, is an ongoing thing. We have to have a customer at the end of the day for the project, so that's been an active effort. And so we continue to be thrilled with the way things are going on the project, and just really had a good series of meetings last week. And so I'll leave it there. Luigi, do you want to add anything before we entertain any questions? No, this is Luigi Resto with R Plus again. I don't have anything to add other than, is it okay the approach that Matthew just laid out with putting the presentation under the record and not reading through it page by page? We're trying to be sensitive to everybody's time here.
we got the nod from the DA's office, and that is okay to go ahead and put that in public record.
Perfect. And happy to answer any questions that the commission may have, or anybody else that you would like to direct questions about.
Travis has a comment.
I'm at Luigi. Yeah, just appreciate you guys working hand in hand with us through this process. Thank you so much for coming out and just having us included all the way and making it a joint effort. So.
And just for your information, earlier in the meeting, we appointed Travis Godon as our liaison to energy in the county, so he will be your go-to guy. The commission voted unanimous to make him that, and he's a good man for the job. But in going back, I attended the meetings, several of them, in last week's meetings as well. We're very excited about this project. White Pine County is looking to the future, and there'll be a few hurdles here and there, but on the whole, what you guys have done over the last several years, plus up to date right now, has really brought a lot of interest and pumped a lot of anxiety, or anticipation, I guess is the best word. New industry, especially energy. Boy, I can't tell you how happy I am. So, thank you both, and again, you guys have Travis's phone number and his emails, and all the stuff, any information, I think you can go to him, and then he can bring it back to the county commission meetings. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Commissioner. And I'd like to add just one kind of comment as far as where we are with the development of the project. And as Matthew described, we've made significant headway on the kind of the technical aspects of development, the interconnection tying into the Robinson Summit. That is looking very favorable, and we don't have a deal killer there, which normally is one of the areas that you look at is, can you clamp into the power system or not? That's been determined that we will be able to at the Robinson Summit. The geological and environmental studies that HDR consultant has performed have all come back very positive as well. So from a constructability perspective, it looks very good to the project. And now going into the FERC licensing, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission licensing process, those technical steps are all moving forward. I would expect over the next, year to 2 years, we will work on a lot of on-the-ground development with White Pine County and the city of Ely, but from a development perspective of doing things like, securing the water rights for the initial fill and the ongoing obligation, working to put together some kind of conditional use permit that might have, items that the county would look for us to include in our general development, and looking at, securing the easement. So over the next year, we do anticipate doing a lot of work with the county and the city to help support and develop, and tick off the list of development activities on the project. So with that, I'd say thank you.
Richard?
We have a couple of things. Shane's got something to say.
Yes, this is Shane Wiley, Commissioner. Gentlemen, where are you at in discussions with the railroad on the movement of the lower reservoir and having to realign the high line?
Matt, do you want to take that, or you want me to take that?
Yeah. So last winter, we had our meeting with Mark Bassett and talked about the need to do that realignment in order to place the lower reservoir in the optimum spot geologically, closer up the slope. And the feedback from the railroad was, obviously they'd rather not move the railroad, but if it has to be moved, keep the slope under a certain percent grade. So our engineers came up with a concept to keep it underneath that threshold. We had another good meeting last week to talk about that. We may be able to shorten that realignment even further, so we're going to be looking at that, minimize any disruption to that. And we're also talking about the right-of-way. That's another issue with the railroad. They prefer to keep their right-of-way, the ownership, versus having a right-of-way through BLM land. So we're working to address that as well, so that we can hopefully preserve that as being city-owned, the land underneath the railroad, even the realignment. So that's an ongoing discussion, but it looks
have something to say?
No, that's what I was gonna bring up, because after the last meeting, I did hear more comments in regards to the concerns where there's already, the land patent on the railroad, and of course, that is city, so there was concerns there about how long it was gonna take to go through the process if they do move it,